We are back once again. I'm just checking to see if you can hear me. Hold on just 1 second. Let's do a quick sound check. Waiting to see if this works. Doing a quick sound check. We're going to talk about cults. Waiting to see if this works. Doing a quick. Oops. Okay, we are good. Sound is working. All right, let's switch this to public. Okay, sorry about that. I had to take a bit of a break because there's a phone call I had to take. So here we are. Today, I want to talk about cults. What is a cult? Now, I'm getting this primarily from Masterclass. However, there are a lot of different groups and organizations that talk about cults. What is a cult, how it operates, how they work. More specifically, I want to talk about this subject to talk about why Freemasonry is not a cult, despite what some people, including some people on these streams, may say. But Freemasonry is not a cult. We'll talk about why that is in just one moment. Let's give it a couple minutes to wait to see who finds me, who wants to jump in the chat once again. We're just going to give it a couple more minutes, see who jumps in the chat to say hello. As always, please take a moment, hit that like button and that subscribe button. It would be most appreciated. I hope everybody watching this is having a great day. And if you are joining us new, or you weren't on the previous stream, the first, hour and bit was us just talking, chatting, hanging out. The second hour, this hour, is about Freemasonry, or is about, again, the specific subject, which is cults. What are cults and why Freemasonry is not a cult. Now, I also want to do a quick reminder that February 5th, so coming up very soon, I am going to be starting the push-up challenge. 2,000 push-ups over 23 days, which is going to be a blast. I hope you guys will consider, joining me for some of those. Well, and so long as you hit the sub button, that's the most important thing. So I'll take it. We're just going to give it a couple more minutes. We're just going to wait to see who jumps on to say hello. Hello, Gooey. Welcome back. Thank you for being here. All right, so let's start talking about cults and why Freemasonry is not a cult. So, cults, and this again is taken from a masterclass article, but I'll be adding my own influence in as well, right? My own thoughts, my own comments, and why this relates to or doesn't relate to Freemasonry. Cults have mystified and even terrified outsiders for decades upon decades. These shadowy and isolated organizations have left a long string of crimes in their wake. Learn more about what a cult is and how to spot one. The term cult refers most often to a group of people with usually atypical beliefs living in relative isolation from the world. Right there, that's the first indication that Freemasonry is not a cult, because Freemasons do not live in isolation, relative or otherwise, from the world. We are a part of the world. They tend to centralize around one charismatic person, the cult leader, who orders the beliefs, behaviors, and customs of all other members. Many cults stand in as de facto new religions for their followers, but some are irreligious in nature. Welcome, Vince Hildate Sr., Vince Hildestad Sr. Thank you for being here. Commander Luke, Freemasons are not about nothing. Freemasonry is about making the world a better place through the application of brotherly love, relief, and truth. Commander Luke, Vince, please hit like and subscribe. The word cult descends from the Latin cultus, an ancient word encompassing the concepts of adoration, education, and cultivation. At first, it became a catch-all term for groups devoted to a specific subject. This could be something philosophical and religious or more mundane and material. By the 19th century, it evolved to mean an unorthodox group of zealous and eccentric believers. Still, the definition of cult remains somewhat expansive. While it's synonymous with these sorts of often destructive movements and bizarre forms of belief, it can also refer to an ordinary group of people. For example, a movie might have a cult following, meaning it appeals to a niche group of people. This does not imply anything nefarious about the movie itself. They are more a club, earth true. However, many people consider or compare Freemasonry to cults. So I'm going through what a cult is and its characteristics to disabuse people of that idea and that notion. Characteristics of a cult. Each cult has its own distinctive focus, but almost all of these groups share at least some elements in common, such as authoritarian control, right? Cultism hinges on encouraging maximum dependency. People in the cult must feel incapable of living an individual life outside the norms of the group. These beliefs often go hand in hand with a worshipful attitude towards the group's authoritarian leader. So, despite the fact that the quote unquote leader of a Masonic lodge is called the worshipful master, Freemasonry does not hinge on encouraging maximum dependency, nor does it require people to feel incapable of living an individual life outside the norms of the group. Freemasonry, first of all, is democratic, which means there is no single leader, but rather the leader or the leadership is voted on by the membership in a yearly or sometimes, every 2-year basis, which means no one Mason is ever given complete control. Even if he is the worshipful master, he's still not given complete control. He has to work within the lodge structures, and that control is democratically granted and can be removed once the term of office is up. An authoritarian leader in a cult is basically leader for life and unquestioned. Within Freemasonry, you can question the leadership all the time. You can vote on the leadership. You can vote on motions. And also, Freemasonry does not expect anyone to feel incapable of living outside of Freemasonry. In fact, you're encouraged to put your outside responsibilities first, family, work, etc. Extremist beliefs. Cult members hold to very dogmatic and extreme beliefs. They are also unable to question these belief systems without fear of reprisal or punishment from the leader or other group members. Within Freemasonry, it doesn't have a set of quote-unquote beliefs, at least in a religious terminology, right? Freemasonry maybe has lessons or philosophical ideas, but there is no Masonic dogma. Every Mason will have his or her own beliefs as it relates to their religious beliefs, their political beliefs, and they are free to hold those without judgment from others. Of course, they are, Mr. Keeps. Isolation from society, this is the big one. As soon as new members join a cult, other adherents work hard to isolate them from family and friends. This helps fulfill the mind control aspirations of the leader. It also creates a hive mind of sorts between the new person and the other members. So this is a really important thing to remember about Freemasonry. Within Freemasonry, we are not trying to isolate anybody from family members or friends or work or religion or whatever else it is. If anybody ever tries to get you to do that, they are not Masonic, whatever they say. Within Freemasonry, you are encouraged to put your family first, followed by your work. In some cases, what they'll say is actually you're encouraged to put your religion first. So if you're Christian, go to church. If you're Muslim, go to mosque, whatever it is. Put your religion first, then your family, then your work. Freemasonry will never try to isolate anyone from their family members or friends. And in fact, in some ways, we very often try to bring the family members or friends, get them involved in the lodge by having ladies' nights, family nights, Christmas parties, whatever it might be, in order to, um, in order to make sure that the family, friends, whatever it is, understand that ultimately the first thing in the brother's life needs to be his family. Freemasonry needs to come in second place. So there is no isolation efforts. By the way, isolation from society is how cults work. It's also how scams work, right? If you are ever, if somebody's ever asking you for money, for example, and one of the things they tell you is, don't let anybody know I'm asking you for this money, or don't talk to the police, or don't talk to friends about this, that's a huge red flag that you're being scammed. Because whether it's a cult or a scam, it's working on the same principle, which is we don't want you talking to other people about this because they may poke holes in what's going on and what's happening and convince you that this is baloney, right? Um, you're absolutely right. Cults can be um, irreligious. They can be political. They can be, I don't even know, like cultural, for lack of a better term. Absolutely the case. Veneration of a single individual. Charismatic leaders are often at the center of most cults. Consider the Manson family of the late 1960s. As their name suggests, they adopted the beliefs of their leader and fulfilled his requests. The same pattern repeats in almost all other cults, albeit to less violent ends in many cases. Freemasonry does not venerate a single individual. Certainly, we have Masons who, for whatever reason, they've been around for a long time, they've done a lot of good for the craft, they may win awards, be a Mason of the Year, get a Meritorious Service Award. That doesn't automatically equate with veneration. In fact, one of the biggest things you see very often here on this channel, on this stream, is people saying Freemasons worship or venerate Albert Pike, which we do not. We do not worship or venerate a single individual. We have respect for individuals who have, maybe given much in terms of their time and their efforts to Freemasonry, but that's not the same as veneration. Well, I don't think Lucifer exists, SMG, because I'm not Christian. So to me, he is a mythological figure. To my knowledge, from a theological perspective or a mythological perspective, he would be another name for Satan. There are some who actually believe Lucifer and Satan are different individuals. Lucifer was the snake in the garden, which is not the same as the biblical Satan, who was cast aside from heaven. Lucifer is more of a Prometheus or light bringer type of figure. It depends on what you believe. You have to ask each Mason. No two Masons believe the same thing. Again, SMG, somebody's been reading too much Albert Pike and not understanding that Albert Pike is a single individual whom we do not venerate. So somebody is not paying attention to what I'm saying. The beliefs of one do not represent the beliefs of all. Every Mason will have his own beliefs on these things. There are 4 types of cult. The degree question. What difference does it make, SMG? What difference would it make if I was a 33rd degree Mason versus a 3rd degree Mason? There are 4 types of cults. Doomsday cults, right? Certain cults come together to prepare for allegedly imminent end of the world. For instance, Branch Davidians stockpiled firearms and explosives in Waco, Texas. Compound in the 1980s and 90s to prepare for the apocalypse. This led to the infamous standoff with the federal government. Right off the bat, we know Freemasonry is not a doomsday cult because Freemasonry gives no lessons, instructions, philosophies, predictions as to the end of the world, imminent or otherwise. It doesn't make any promises regarding raptures, doomsday, nuclear war, whatever it is. Freemasonry, I've never heard any Freemason tell me when the world is going to end. or to be prepared for it. Having said that, if there is ever a zombie apocalypse, for the record, I'm hiding out in the Windsor Masonic Temple. Political cults. Political groups, both on the left and right, can morph into cults. Yanya Lalick wrote an entire account of her experience in such an environment. Freemasonry is not a political cult because we, in fact, in Freemasonry are not allowed to discuss politics or religion within a lodge. You can be left wing, right wing, center, liberal, conservative, NDP, Democrat, Republican, liberal, Reform, Labor, whatever it is, and you're welcome. Freemasonry does not discuss politics, nor does it have a political affiliation. So Freemasonry is not a political cult. Religious cults, right? Spiritual beliefs serve as the bedrock for many cults. Some cults are offshoots of mainline religions, while others offer brand new dogmas and theology. As I've said a million times, Freemasonry is not a religion, nor is it religious. We have members of all different faiths and beliefs: Christian, Muslim, Jewish, Hindu, Sikh, indigenous, people like me who believe in a supreme being but are not necessarily religious. And we're not allowed to discuss religion within a lodge. So therefore, by definition, Freemasonry is not a religious cult. And the last one, and by the way, I know the conspiracy theorists are going to go nuts with this one, right? But sex cults. All types of cults might have a component of sexual abuse, but some focus on sex as one of their primary functions. For instance, New York-based NXIVM encouraged rampant sexual behavior between its group members before dissolving. Freemasonry is not a sex cult. You'll just have to believe me on that one. I guess I know some conspiracy theories out there. There is I've never seen any examples of sexual abuse within Freemasonry or encouraging sexual conduct. That would be gross. So therefore, Freemasonry does not fit into any of these types of cults. It does not fit into a doomsday cult, a political cult, a religious cult, or a sex cult, which is another reason why Freemasonry is not a cult. Yes, I'm sure as well. Dixon, yes, I heard somebody was telling me in the Epstein files that Freemasonry was mentioned. I don't know if it was or wasn't, or how it was or wasn't. I know that a ton of different groups were mentioned, like Illuminati was mentioned, I believe. I was curious to see if Freemasonry or Freemasons was actually mentioned in the files and in what manner, but I've not checked. To my knowledge, no Freemasons have been implicated within the files. The one potential exception being Bill Clinton. He was not a Freemason, but he was a member of DMLA, which is a Masonic youth group. Thank you, STMP. Please hit like and subscribe. So examples of cults, right? Cults have made headlines over the years due to outrageous and sometimes tragic behavior. Heaven's Gate, People's Temple, Unification Church. Just three, for example, right? Why do people join cults? And this is something I want to talk about because you could apply this idea of why people join cults and apply it to why people get scammed in general, not even through cults, but catfishing or, credit card schemes or scams or whatever it might be. People join cult movements for various reasons, most of which revolve around desire for meaning and community. Many who become part of such organizations have troubled backgrounds and difficulty fitting into society. They might also feel mainstream culture has no place for them and nothing of spiritual value to offer either. Former cult members often describe the long-lasting sense of loneliness and nihilism they felt prior to becoming part of something bigger than themselves. This encourages them to put down their defenses and accept the stranger elements of new communities. Of course, this has sometimes led to horrific and even deadly outcomes in extreme circumstances. So this is something I want to touch on. Look, I've always said it, and I still believe it. Freemasonry can absolutely provide a sense of meaning and community for people. It's not the exclusive way. It's not the single way. Many people may find meaning and community by going to a church, by joining a knitting club, by taking part in team sports, by, joining a gaming club, by joining a chess club. But Freemasonry can absolutely fulfill the desire for meaning and community among some people. If Freemasonry continues to decline in relevance, people who have troubled backgrounds and difficulty fitting into society, instead of finding a healthy way to deal with those feelings and a healthy way to fulfill the desire for meaning and community, they may look for unhealthy ways to fulfill that desire by joining cults, and joining cults that have incredibly negative and incredibly harmful ideologies and harmful practices, right? I think we within Freemasonry absolutely need to understand that, look, if we are not working with other people, if we are not relevant in communities, if we are not providing an outlet for people who are troubled and struggling to find that meaning and community they're looking for, they may look for it in other places that are harmful. That doesn't mean we let anybody and everybody into our organization. It's not for everybody and anybody. But that does mean we need to understand that if we are not providing a community resource for meaning and community, it will be found in other places, right? Loneliness and nihilism are real problems. I think a lot of men right now are trying to solve those feelings or resolve those feelings through the manosphere, which I think is incredibly dangerous as well. Or also, but it also comes into what we see on this stream, right? Like, if you are lonely, if you are feeling nihilistic, if you have a troubled background, if you have difficulty fitting into society, if you feel mainstream culture has no place for you and nothing of value to offer, one thing you may choose to do is you start to look for things online. You start to look for enemies. You start to look for conspiracies online. Because I've said this before, and this is a tough pill to swallow. If you feel like mainstream culture has no place for you, if you feel like you cannot get any spiritual value, if you feel lonely, if you feel nihilistic, that might be on you. That might be on the individual. And that's perfectly okay. We all struggle. We all have difficulties. We all have challenges. It's okay to feel lonely. It's okay to feel nihilistic sometimes. It's okay to have difficulty fitting into society. I sometimes feel like I have difficulty fitting into society, right? What you have to do, though, in those cases is look in the mirror and figure out how you can change yourself, how you can put in work, how you can put in work to feel comfortable with yourself, to feel comfortable with who you are, and to find meaning in the world, to deal with issues of loneliness and nihilism. That doesn't mean you have to change who you are completely, but that means you have to work on yourself and become a version of yourself that are proud of and is not troubled. That's a really hard thing to do. That's a really challenging thing to do. What's easier to do is to go onto social media, look up a bunch of nonsense about Freemasons, and then decide that you're going to dedicate your life to talking nonsense about Freemasonry on streams, on channels, on YouTube, right? Or it doesn't have to be them. It could be QAnon stuff. It could be New World Order stuff. It could be, being against a religious group or immigrants or who knows what it is that you're against, right? But Freemasonry is one of them that pops up a lot. And that's why I always say, when I have someone, when I have someone on the stream who is constantly, like, it's one thing if somebody comes on the stream and says, I heard that Freemasonry is satanic. I'm happy to answer that question. But if I get somebody on the stream saying Freemasonry is satanic, or it's wrong, or you're this, or you're that, or Albert Pike says, and if they keep going, my assumption is normally they are treating Masonic conspiracy theories in the same vein and the same way as people joining a cult. They are doing that, and they've decided to become some type of soldier or information, YouTube person against Freemasonry because they have had trouble fitting into society. They have had troubled backgrounds. They are feeling lonely. They are feeling nihilistic. And instead of looking in the mirror and dealing with their problems themselves, they've decided to spend all of their time fighting against Freemasonry. And they've joined kind of an online cult, right? Um, and it's unfortunate when that happens. I bring up the movie Bug all the time because it's an example of that, right? But I think that very often is what happens. And I think cults prey on those things as well, right? They find people who have difficulty fitting into society. They find people who are lonely, who are nihilistic, and they exploit that. Um, and I think that's, in some ways, it is a knock on Freemasonry in that we have not done enough to remain relevant in communities, to remain relevant in the world, and show people, hey, there is a positive group that you can join. If you are struggling, you know, you can find meaning and community in healthy ways. And Freemasonry is one such healthy way. It's not the exclusive healthy way. Like Mr. Keeps pointed out, everyone going on a health journey. That's a great way to find meaning. Absolutely. It's a great way to find hope, Mr. Keeps, points out. And that's very, I'm sure it's not an easy journey to take all the time. I'm sure it's challenging. I'm assuming by health journey you mean both exercise and diet. It can be hard to maintain a good diet. It can be hard to maintain an exercise schedule, but you can find meaning in that. You can also maybe push back against loneliness if you have other people on the same health journey as you. You can find a healthy community, right? That's an example of a healthy way to deal with to deal with maybe a lack of hope, nihilism, loneliness. Um, but yeah, I guess my point is people unfortunately will join cults or join online conspiracy circles out of a sense of loneliness, nihilism, a lack of fitting in, um, and a desire for meaning community they can't find elsewhere. It's up to us as Freemasons to provide a positive, healthy alternative to cults, and to the manosphere and to stuff online. Um, it's not, and again, it's also, I would argue, up to the Knights of Columbus to do the same thing because they're a positive group. It's up to Elks, Moose, your local knitting club, whatever it is. It's up to all of these groups to do so. So you need to keep that in mind. Um, Absolutely, Mr. Keeps, and good for you. So Freemasons are not a satanic cult. We're neither a cult nor are we satanic. And I'm just talking about why it is that it's not a cult. I hope the reasons I've explained make sense. Um, I personally started with the Diet Factory meal kits and started Brian Johnson's blueprint. I'm starting an exercise regimen as well. Good for you, Mr. Keeps. Keep up the good work. I'm proud of you. And I hope you'll keep us informed of your your health journey. Because, I mean, I'm sure your family, if you have a family, everybody has a family of some sort. I'm sure your family, um, whomever it is, whether it be siblings, parents, if you got whatever the family is, I'm sure that they're proud of you. I'm proud of you. Your Square and Compass family's proud of you. Keep up the good work. If you were, if you were a Mason, I'm sure your brothers are proud of you. If your co-workers are proud of you. Um, you know, but everybody should be proud of you because it's not easy to actually choose to, it's not easy to make the decision to, take charge of your health and your well-being. It takes discipline, it takes effort, so more power to you. And maybe I'll look at some of those Diet Factory meal kits because I'm the worst. I mean, I'm a hypocrite, absolutely, when it comes to eating healthy. I'm always telling Masons to be healthy, and I never bother eating healthy myself. So that is something I need to work on for sure. So I'm working on it. Awesome, Mr. Keeps. Good for you. Yes, I've known many gay Freemasons. Well, I've known 4 gay Freemasons and many black Freemasons. They're absolutely welcome. Um, so keep up the good work, Mr. Keeps. We're all proud of you. Or at least I'm proud of you. So again, going through this one more time and why Freemasonry is not a cult. A, it has none of the characteristics of a cult. It does not have authoritarian control. It rather exercises democratic control that is time limited and is, both democratic and allows for the questioning of leadership decisions. It does not hold extremist or dogmatic beliefs. It does not require or expect isolation from society or isolation from a member's religious, familial, or employment responsibilities. It does not venerate a single individual, nor does it venerate any specific individuals. For example, it does not venerate Albert Pike, despite what some may say. It is also not a cult because it does not fit into any of the 4 types of cult. It is not a doomsday cult because it makes no predictions, promises, statements about the end of the world. It is not a political cult because there is no assigned political beliefs. In fact, you're not allowed to discuss politics within a lodge. It is not a religious cult in that it welcomes men of all different faiths, and we're not allowed to discuss religion within a lodge. And it is not a sex cult for obvious reasons, which I'm not even going to get into. You'll just have to trust me on that. There's no sex cult within Freemasonry. And I will say, though, people who are struggling in life, either joining a cult or getting into nonsense on social media, very often I believe it's out of a troubled background, a difficulty fitting into society, a sense of loneliness, and a sense of nihilism. Freemasonry has a responsibility to provide a positive alternative for those people so they are not joining negative groups and organizations like cults, but rather they are joining positive outlets. Again, Freemasonry is one of many. Freemasonry, Knights of Columbus. I'm trying to think of other ones. Freemasonry, Knights of Columbus, Elks, Moose, etc., etc. Well, Freemasonry is not a cult, Will. Clearly, you're not paying attention to what I'm saying. Yes, I'm sure, because I've been in Masonic lodges with men of all different races, ethnicities, backgrounds, and sexual orientations, and it's perfectly fine. I hope that everything I said made sense. If it didn't, let me know. Mr. Keeps, did what I say make sense about why Freemasonry is not a cult? To everybody else watching this, I hope it all made sense as well. We're just going to be back now to answering questions. And by the way, in terms of a health journey, Mr. Keeps, I'm going to be doing the 2,000 push-up in 23-day challenge starting on February 5th at 10 a.m. Maybe you can join me in that as well. You don't have to do push-ups with me. You can do whatever you can do. Some people are doing squats. Some people are doing like just stretching exercises. Some people are taking steps. On the 5th day of February, it's starting with 63 push-ups. So that will be 63 is day 1. And I'm probably going to do them in front of Caesar's Windsor because, I'm going to try to do them in front of different locations that are famous within Windsor. No chair push-ups. 63 day 1. Yes, I'm going to do them all at once. You don't have to do them all at the same time, though, Mr. Keeps. Keep that in mind. I know some people are doing like 10 at a time, 20 at a time, then taking an hour break. It's going to be cold. It's going to be cold, but that's okay. It'll be a lot of fun. And honestly, I need to get healthy for some things I have coming up. So I need to start exercising a little bit more. That's one of the reasons why I've been doing a lot of exercise, live streams when I'm downstairs in my gym, because I find that doing so can help, when I'm live streaming, it helps give me energy or gives me motivation to keep going. I will mangle that troll, Dixon. You don't even worry about it. You don't even worry about it. I will totally mangle the troll. Yes, I know many Chinese Freemasons. Freemason does not discriminate based on one's ethnicity. Um, well, I think Freemasons, I've said this before, I truly believe that Freemasons should be cheerleaders for their communities. I think it's really important that we try to be supportive of and be cheerleaders for our local communities. Um, when we are not, I think it's kind of doing a disservice. You cannot separate the success of a Masonic lodge, or sorry, you cannot separate the condition of a Masonic lodge from the condition of a country, city, community in which it's located. So, yeah, that's the hard part. That's also the challenging thing about doing these streams, like listening to them back, because what happens is if especially if people I know listen to these live streams in the car and it seems like going from topic to topic because you don't always see every comment that I see. What I would say though is if you're listening to this in the car, listen to the podcast episodes, not necessarily the live streams. I do not know if that's true or not. Go fish. All I can say is anybody who is committing any crimes as referenced in the Epstein files should absolutely go to jail. Um, Sometimes, I mean, some Masonic lodges organize fishing trips, camping trips, whatever it might be. So yeah, it happens. It depends on the lodge and depends on how often the lodge is willing to hold these type of events. I've organized cabin trips where we all go out and go fishing and go camping. It's really fun. Um, I have no idea. I mean, Boy Scouts and Freemasonry does have a pretty significant history together, but I have no idea what the number is of each. Um, so I can't say. But there's a good connection. It was actually a Mason who brought the Boy Scouts into America. He was, if I recall correctly, the story is he was traveling to England and he met a scout in England and he learned about what scouting is because scouting originated in England. He learned about what scouting is and he brought it back to America. I do too. It's full of coffee, which means I love it. The fact that it's full of coffee makes it my favorite thing. Um, by the way, I do want to give a shout out and a thank you to, actually, let me get the name correct. Let me just pull it up. I posted this on Facebook yesterday, but I want to make sure I get the names correct. Um, dun, dun, dun. If I could find it. That's probably part of your health journey, Mr. Keeps, and more power to you on that one. Um, where is it now? I can't find it anymore. Got to get this guy's name right. Here it is, Stephen Taylor. So, as some of you guys may have seen, I was encouraging the Parks Canada to maintain their historical website, historical register of historical buildings and properties across Canada. Historicalplaces.ca, if I recall correctly. It's a register that is a national searchable database of historic places recognized by federal, provincial, territorial, and local governments. I thought that was really, really cool. Really cool register because, amongst other things, it maintains historical registries of hundreds of Masonic historical places across Canada, including my home, the Windsor Masonic Temple. Parks Canada was planning, and I believe is still planning, to decommission that website. However, Stephen Taylor is a gentleman who preserved the information contained within the website, he used artificial intelligence tools to download all of the data on the old Parks Canada site and rebuild it using modern web standards. So it's called the heritageguide.ca, the heritageguide.ca. So that has all the information from the Parks Canada site on a new site. It's both available in English and French. You can do a near me search. So you can see a ton of stuff about Windsor, my home. It's really, really cool. Thank you to Stephen Taylor for doing that. There are so few sites, so few registers that have information about Masonic historical buildings, which I love. I love our Masonic historical buildings. I wish there was more registers with more information, but even if we do end up losing the Parks Canada site, Stephen Taylor, thank you for creating the heritageguide.ca. It's much appreciated. So a green name would either mean, so green name means membership. Jason, you become a member. I do hold member exclusive live streams, member exclusive polls, which helps me decide what I want to talk about sometimes. For example, I might say, members, what topic do you want to see me discuss? Usually it's in connection to my 24-hour live streams. Knock on wood, yes. At the very least, through the heritageguide.ca, it's been saved. So yeah, heritageguide.ca. And again, you can find information about not just Masonic heritage buildings, but heritage buildings around the world. Around Canada, across Canada. They don't give me either, but some lodges do give you a penny. They used to. The pennies have been decommissioned, so I don't know if you're getting them anymore. It's not a really common experience to my knowledge, but sometimes you get a gift. I've got a few Masonic pennies over the years, just collected them. I cannot make Jason a member. He can make himself a member. I drink my coffee at 4 a.m., up at 3 a.m. Dixon, you're a better man than I. I mean, sometimes I'm up at 4 a.m. because I'm doing a 1 a.m. live stream and I stay up that late, but that's a whole different can of tuna there. I like seeing 4 a.m. from the back end. I don't like waking up into it, put it that way. Don't worry, Jason. You being here is helpful enough. It makes a big deal, right? Just being here, being present, taking part in the stream, hitting the like button, sharing, all that stuff helps out hugely and is incredibly valuable. So I greatly, greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much. And yeah, no, it's greatly appreciated. Oh, I've heard that joke before, Jim Rat. I've heard that joke before, but it's still a good one. It's still a good one. We're now back at the just hanging out. By the way, Jason, one thing you can do, and you may have already, forgive me if you did and I've forgotten, you can become a Patreon member. You can become a Patreon member for free. It doesn't cost anything, and sometimes I will hold special Patreon exclusive events, Patreon exclusive live streams, Patreon exclusive polls. So I don't know off the top of my head if I forget if you are a member or not, but if you go to patreon.com/square and compass, become a member for free. You can even become a follower on Medium for free. Oof. Well, congratulations, Jason. 18 days without weed. Good for you. Weed is a substance like anything else. It can become a problem. It can become problematic. So good for you. I appreciate the effort you're putting into it. I can make Jason a mod. Sure, I don't see why not. Does Jason want to be a mod? Yes. So you go to jason.com/mod patreon.com/square and compass. Like, Jason, following me and becoming members on Medium, on Patreon, um, on Instagram, follow me there, like follow me on Twitch, all that stuff helps out big time. And it's all free to do. There are a million ways to help the channel out through the channel beyond monetary support. Monetary support is great, and I'm greatly appreciative of it. However, that's just one way. There's many ways. So, Jason, become a Patreon member. You can do so, again, completely for free. Patreon.com/square and compass. And consider becoming a Medium member as well. You can do that completely for free also. Both of which help out big time. So I hope you'll consider doing so. It's one of those things where we sometimes forget just how many different ways there are to support creators, content creators, streamers on these channels. Because, Gooey, you keep on calling me pastor, and you keep on saying that your Masonic Lodge gives out memberships to Good Life Fitness, neither of which is true, for the record. Neither of which is true. I've never heard of a Masonic Lodge giving memberships to Good Life Fitness. So I guess I can't say it's 100% not true, but I highly question that. And you keep on saying we drink rum and smoke cigarettes. Some Masons, I'm sure, drink rum, but many do not. There you go, Jason. You're the next. You're the next one. You are a top fan. You should be happy that you're a top fan. That's a big deal in and of itself. There you go, Jason. You did join as a free member. Stop talking about rum and cigarettes, and we'll see, Gooey. How about that? Look up Good Life Fitness on a Gematria calendar. I'm genuinely curious about this now, so I'm going to do that. Because I have no idea what a Gematria calendar, how that works. Or calculator, excuse me. Gematria calculator. Okay, I'm doing it. Here it is. Good Life Fitness. So in Hebrew, it equals 491. In English, it equals 990. In simple, it equals 165. I have no idea what any of that means. It's Planet Fitness? All right, I'm looking at Planet Fitness. I don't know what crazy thing you guys are taking me on. Oops, sorry. Okay, Planet Fitness in Hebrew Gematria is 566. In English, it's 960. In simple, it's 160. So again, I got nothing. You guys are sending me down some crazy paths here, some crazy rabbit holes. They mean nothing, Gooey. There's this thing called Gematria, which I know very little about. It's kind of connected to numerology. They have these different online calculators where you put words in and it spits out numerical values for those words. The numerical values are supposed to be some type of predictive model for your future, I think. But, I mean, I think it's all a bunch of silliness. Well, I can't help you with that. The one I use is geomatrix.org, and it lets you put in English words. Many people, I mean, you know, if I was like, let's say, living in a van or something, I would 100% use gym memberships. Many people do. I've known a few people who are, you know, they live in vans, they travel around, and they use their gym memberships for showers and stuff like that. I would agree with that, Jim Rat, 100%. As someone who travels pretty frequently, I'm always debating whether I should get a gym membership just for that purpose, especially if I'm doing a thing where I'm not staying in a hotel because I'm taking like a couple all-night buses. Does it make sense to have a gym membership and I can at least, if I have a layover at an airport, at a bus station, at a train station, stop in at the local Masonic lodge, or sorry, stop in at the local gym to shower and, relax for a bit. Um, so, Jim, I agree with you on that 100%. Um, I can tell you this, I would use those gyms regularly. That is true. Keeping a car, having a wife, two kids, and a home is quite the financial overhead. Yes, I do. I am thinking about that, honestly, because I will use those airport lounges all the time. I think they're really good value, but I don't get in them for free. I have to pay to use the showers and stuff. The problem is some of these credit cards have yearly fees, so it's like, I have to see how much they are. You need a decent credit card though for to use them. My credit card does not get me in for free, but I do like airport lounges. They can often be, especially again if you're staying all night in an airport and you don't want to spend money on a hotel, they can sometimes be pretty valuable. So I could imagine that for sure. That's clearly what I should do, Dixon. That is clearly what I should do. All right, we're going to go for another 9 minutes, then we'll be ending this stream. I'll be back on at 1 a.m. Thank you, everybody who subscribed. I hope my discussion on cults and specifically why Freemasonry is not a cult made sense. We will be doing, again, February 5th, the 2,000 push-ups in the 2,000 push-ups in 23 days, starting with 63 push-ups. To my knowledge, Trudeau is not a Freemason. I've never heard any evidence that he is. The last Freemason prime minister we had, that I know for sure we had, was John Diefenbaker. Yes, I'd agree with that, Mr. Keeps. I'd also say that is a telltale of scams in general, right? Without a question, if you are trying to scam somebody, one of the things you're going to do is ask them for money, but also ask them or separate them from their family. Tell them, not to speak to their families or friends or whatever it is about this request or this ask because they wouldn't understand or they'd be too negative or something to that effect, blah, blah, blah. You need to be so careful about that. And that to me is a major, major red flag. If I find out somebody, is giving money to somebody but can't talk about it, that usually concerns me quite a bit. So it's a cult thing. I mean, within Freemasonry, obviously, right? Here I am talking about it. So clearly, we're not trying to isolate anybody if I'm here talking to people about it. I'd consider them as well. I think that's perfectly fair. And that's an interesting point. In the article from which I was reading and from which I based today's topic on, the four types of cults were doomsday, religious, political, and sex cults. You could argue, though, that multi-level marketing schemes are another type of cult, another type of category, an economic cult, right? Although I would say very often they seem to be a kind of religion, at least the way people treat them or interact with them. So maybe you could consider it in some ways not a religious cult, but a spiritual cult. But I think maybe a better way to define it would be an economic cult. Um, but I don't think you're wrong by any means. Intertwined. Well, Dixon, I don't know if I would say that. I think all of us, by our nature are intertwined to a certain extent, and our well-beings, it makes a difference to me, the well-being of my neighbor, and my neighbor should care about my well-being, because we're part of the same community, we're part of the same world. If they are struggling, that will affect me in some way, some shape, or some form, right? Like, for example, if they need to go to the hospital, that is one less hospital bed that's available for me if I need help or my family needs help. I've always believed that we are not, we belong to each other. How well I know you or how well I don't know you, I still have a duty to you, you still have a duty to me, a duty to try to maintain a certain level of health, well-being, common sense, to make decisions that are, of benefit to the whole. I've always believed that. I still believe that. What was my phrase? But I belong to the fat Muppet, which Mr. Keeps found hilarious. However, the danger, I think, from a cult perspective, is when it's like everything else, when you start to take it to a point where you start to make people feel bad for making decisions, or make people feel as though they can't ever consider themselves, but have to consider the cult's well-being over their own. So, for example, go massively into debt, screw over your entire financial future, but give the cult all of your money, right? At that point, you are harming your own well-being for the good of a cult. That is dangerous, right? What the cult should be telling you is, not the cult. What a responsible organization tells you is you need to take care of yourself, you need to take care of your health, you need to take care of your well-being. Doing so will ultimately help the group because you will be in the healthiest state, financially, emotionally, physically, right? As opposed to give everything of yourself to this cult, which therefore, will just basically treat you as a resource to suck dry, basically, right? And Freemasonry doesn't do that. Freemasonry encourages you to take care of yourself, take care of your family, take care of your responsibilities, and then give what you can to Freemasonry, but not at the expense of your family or yourself. I played Cult Simulator. I know what I'm talking. I don't know what Cult Simulator is, but cool. Yes, that is huge. We have one hospital bed, for heaven's sakes. Now, again, everything relative, right? Everything is relative. You can't always control your health. You have, family history, genetics, freak accidents. Sometimes things just happen, and so be it, right? However, to the extent that you can control some things, you should try your best. And again, I'm not arguing being quote unquote perfect. Again, I've said this before, I'm a bit of a hypocrite because I'm always talking about the value of being healthy. I'm the worst when it comes to my diet. I tend not to eat well at all. It's something you need to work on. I'm not saying anybody needs to be perfect. I'm just saying we should try your best, or we should all try our best. And we should all recognize to a certain extent, my well-being is connected to Dixon, to Mr. Keeps. His well-being is connected to me. We're part of a society, and that means something, right? Oh, just fast food, pizza, cookies, snacks. My diet has never been locked in. I got to be better about that. I have gotten better about drinking water, though. To my credit, I have definitely gotten better about drinking more water. So that's a good thing. Yes, Jason, I agree. Progress, not perfection. I'm not a big fan of poutine, Dixon, because I don't like gravy as a general rule. But I remember McDonald's for a while had this type of poutine. I forget what it was called, but it was like barbecue sauce instead of gravy. That was really good. Mr. Keeps, you're on your health journey, right? You lost 7 pounds. Your blood pressure is down. Keep up the good work. Keep up the good work. I do like cheese curds. I love cheese. Cheese is one of my favorite things in the world. It's the gravy I'm not a big fan of. All right, we've been doing this for about 2 hours and a bit, 2.5 hours. Sorry again for having to take the break. I had to take a phone call. I got some cool stuff coming up. Believe me, I'll be talking about it. You'll hear me talking about it on the stream shortly. In the meantime, though, thank you all for being here. hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I'll be seeing everybody tonight at 1 a.m. All right, talk to you guys soon. Thank you, Dixon.